In order to consider Amendment Number 34, printed in House Report 114-623, for what purpose does the gentleman from Florida seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk and rise as a designee of Mr. Pompeo from Kansas.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 34, printed in House Report number 114-623, offered by Mr. DeSantis of Florida.
Pursuant to House Resolution 783, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. DeSantis, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Speaker, as we've seen with stark clarity recently, Islamic jihadists are on the march, not only abroad but here at home. I think once we have individuals who we know are committed to this destructive ideology and to waging war against the United States in our custody, like we have almost 80 of them at Guantanamo Bay now, that they remain in custody. And we don't want to get in a situation where we're transferring these detainees unwittingly simply because we're on an ideological mission to close Guantanamo Bay. And this facility is a key part of our strategy to fight the war on terrorism. Now, the Obama administration recently admitted that they were not seeking to use an executive order in order to close GTMO's detention facility, and that's a welcome admission because that had been something that had been reported was being considered behind the scenes. Recent news reports perhaps shed light on why this is a non-starter. Recent news reports have shown that at least 12 released detainees have attacked U.S. personnel or allied forces in Afghanistan, and they're responsible for killing at least 6 Americans. So these are terrorists that we had in our custody and then released, and they went out to kill a half-dozen Americans, according to U.S. officials. This is totally unacceptable. So this amendment, which I'm co-sponsoring with Congressman Pompeo, would ban funding to 2 DoD offices whose purposes are simply to close the detention facility in Guantanamo Bay. The facts and the reality show that their mission is unwise and unneeded. My amendment would prohibit funds for salaries or expenses for the offices of the Special Envoy for Guantanamo Detainee Closure and the Principal Director of Detainee Policy. The Principal Director of Detainee Policy's sole mission is to end detainee operations at Guantanamo Bay. And that means either transferring people to the United States or overseas, where we know many of them go back to the jihad once they're released. President Obama also established the Office of the Special Envoy for Guantanamo Detention Closure, which has the same objective. This amendment will eliminate unnecessary bureaucracy and will help keep Americans safe. As President Obama himself begins to give up on his misguided campaign to close GTMO, Americans, especially the people that I represent, can rest assured that none of these terrorists will be brought to their state, nor hopefully transferred to countries that are not going to keep tabs on them. It's time we end funding for these 2 officers and get back to protecting Americans and holding those hardened terrorists in a secure facility we already have that is located off our shores, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserved.